Cool. How's everybody doing this morning? Did you guys get some good sleep last night? Doubtful. Cool. Hey, so Randy asked me to share a little bit with you this morning as just kind of like a morning devotional. A little bit about a story that happened to me in ministry this past spring. So just as a little bit of a backstory, many of you know I'm the assistant pastor here at Loon Mountain Ministry. Marcus is the senior pastor. Marcus and his family went on sabbatical from April 1st through the month of August. So that left myself and Nathan to kind of step into a lot of the roles of leading the organization. One of those roles was just kind of like the pastoral care that we sometimes run into, whether it's with people in our local church or in the community, or people who are referred to us, maybe even outside of our community. And so every spring, who's from the East Coast here? Who here likes to ski Tuckerman Ravine every spring? Awesome. So Tuckerman Ravine is a portion of Mount Washington, which is the highest mountain on the east, not on the East Coast, in the Northeast, excuse me. And it's kind of like the mecca for backcountry skiing in the Northeast. And this past season, we had a really, really good snow year, and it was a cold spring. And so the snow stayed on the mountain late. And, as good as that was, it was actually kind of a dangerous year on the mountain. And there was one particular day, about the second week of April, where there were, I think, 3 triggered avalanches in a day. 2 of them caught and carried people in them. And from one of those avalanches, somebody actually lost their life. And so I heard about that. I think that was around April 11th. I heard about that just, I think, through Facebook, and similar to like when we received the news that Jake Burton had passed away, it was a similar feeling of like, man, I don't know this person, but I share this love for the mountains and this love for skiing and snowboarding, and so like my heart goes out to them. And so it wasn't until the next day that I kind of realized, well, I was told the connection that he had. The general manager of Waterville, who some of you probably met at the Northeast Summit, he came up and spoke. His name's Tim Smith. He gave me a phone call and he said, "Hey, did you hear about the avalanche fatality on Washington?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Do you know who it is?" And I said, "No, not really." And so he said, "Well, it's a guy by the name of Nick Benedicts, and he's actually has some pretty close ties to Waterville." And so I was like, wow, I didn't know that. He explained that his dad was a teacher at the Waterville Ski Academy, and he had just been a lifetime kid that went to Waterville, and he lived right down in Campton, which is about like 20 minutes south of here. And Tim basically just said, like, I wanted to make you aware of his connection to Waterville, and I think it'd be really cool if you could just reach out to his dad on behalf of like the greater ski community and, just offer condolences and support. And so I knew that I was going to be stepping into some different first-time situations that over the course of the 5 months that the Coreys were gone, but I didn't know that it was going to be 2 weeks in and maybe, one of the more intense things that I've seen in ministry since being here at Loon Mountain Ministry. And so I got his dad's name, which was Gary, and his phone number, and I was just praying to the Lord, like, Lord, give me strength. Like, I don't feel like I have the wisdom, I don't feel like I have the words, but I was going to give him a phone call, and so I did that, and fully expecting that he would not pick up his phone. I was kind of just preparing in my head what message I was going to leave for him, and having that going through my head, the phone rings 3 times, and I hear, "Hello?" I'm like, whoa, like, hi, and I introduced myself and just kind of, talk to him for a little bit and just say how sorry I was to hear and wanted to offer condolences and support and from Loon Mountain Ministry and from the greater ski community. And, I told him that, hey, if you guys need anything, if we can do anything for you, please let me know. And he was actually walking into the funeral home at that time, and he said, hey, like, I'm walking into the funeral home trying to prepare some arrangements, but I might like to get back with you. So at that point, we ended the conversation. I think I reached out to the SFC Northeast page and said, hey, I would really appreciate your guys' prayers. Don't know what's going to come out of this. So thank you guys who were praying during that time. About 10 days go by, and hadn't heard anything back from Gary. And at this point, I wasn't really expecting to. And then with a friend, I was planning a day to go to Tuckerman's, and literally as he and I were standing at the trailhead of Tuckerman Ravine, I get a text on my phone, and I look at it, and it was Gary Benedict's, Nick's dad, and he said, hey, could we chat sometime today? I might like to connect with you about the celebration of life that we're going to do for Nick. And so I was pretty blown away by that. Like, as I'm already have this guy on my mind, going up to the exact area that he passed away, that just kind of added to like the weight of that day. But it was really good because it got my mind like already churning and thinking about how I might proceed in this. And so later that night, I got on the phone with Gary, and we scheduled a meeting a couple days later. And he came into the office, and we just chatted, about normal life stuff, and started talking about Nick. And we really connected because we both understood Nick's calling to the mountains. And Gary could see that. Gary, I think in a lot of ways, like just desired for his son to be recognized. And Gary expressed to me, he said, we're not a very religious family. He said, I grew up in a church, but our family hasn't really done anything like that. But it would mean a lot if you could come to the celebration of life and say a few words. And so I was like, yeah, sure, like however we can support you. And mind you, this was all first for me, Usually over the last 3 years when somebody's going through a crisis, if I might hear about that, a lot of times I would just like shift that over to Marcus. Like, he's the more experienced one. He's kind of more naturally gifted at that. And so, this was very much a first thing for me. So I was like pretty nervous about it. But the Lord was super gracious. And, over the next week or so, as I prepared, not really knowing what the crowd was going to be like, first of all, I tried to offer like some guidance in like how to grieve as we usually do, just encouraging the family and friends to like tell stories of Nick, to go to the mountains, because we talk a lot here about how the mountains are a place of both spiritual and physical perspective. And it was really cool. I think I was able to share the gospel in a way that I think was like good news to a lot of these people. The word gospel, as many of you know, means good news, and I think that in every circumstance, the gospel can be applied, even in the worst things, because the gospel changes everything, and it brings good news in every way. And so basically, after going through a little bit, as I was speaking at the celebration of life, I just expressed, I know there's a lot of views about life and death and God and all that, and I'm not trying to change anybody's view, but, personally, when I think about the loss of life, I believe that death was not the way that it's supposed to be. And, even though death is a heart-wrenching thing, I believe that it doesn't have the final say, and that we live in a broken world that's full of pain and death, but there's a power that is greater than death, and that's God's love for us. And Jesus was able to enter into our broken world and into our brokenness individually, and he took on death for us, conquering it, and he offers us a new life that goes beyond even our life on earth. And so I was able to kind of share that with the probably 300 or 400 people that were there. which was just like a testament to God's goodness. So that followed up with like just more relationship, more talking with Gary, and he eventually asked me to do the graveside later on that summer, and just continue to build some more relationships and just try to bring good news into a really hard situation. And the reason I tell you guys this story, I know this is not a cheap story. Like, a man lost his life, and I don't tell it flippantly, and I don't tell it because I see myself or I see Loon Mountain Ministry as an authority on or like a leading figure in how to do this. I know for me, as I was sharing before, I was very much fearful going into it, feeling like I didn't have the words, feeling like I didn't have the wisdom, I wasn't qualified, I didn't have the experience, and anybody else? Has anyone else been in a situation like that before? Yeah. I think, God calls us into those places intentionally so that he can display his power and his work through us. And it's an awesome thing that he would use us. And so I kind of came to the point where I was just like, Lord, I know that I am not enough. Help me to believe that you are enough. Help me to believe that through the Holy Spirit, you can work through me. And that through your Spirit and your power, you can work in the lives of these people who are grieving a terrible loss. And that was really cool for me to experience that. And to encourage you guys, I would say that a couple things that I would encourage you to keep in mind would be a people of compassion. Be known as a people of compassion. So many times it can be easy for us as skiers and snowboarders to kind of let our ego get in the way, want to be known as good riders or good skiers or this or that. But, what caused Tim to reach out to us was that he knew that we were a people of compassion. And this reputation far precedes myself, far precedes Marcus. We are very grateful to be a part of a ministry that has built that reputation over many years. So one, I would say, be known as a people of compassion. Another thing is be ready and willing to enter into these hard situations with people. I think Marcus might talk about the significance of entering in as we look at Jesus' life on mission to the lost and the broken. But there's no shortage in any of your communities of hurting and broken people. And I would encourage you guys to, along with, that compassion, just be willing to enter in. You don't have to know what to say. You don't have to feel like you've got it all figured out, but just to walk alongside these people as they're hurting. God will use it. God will use it. He doesn't call the most talented, the brightest, the most shiny tool in the shed. He just calls the ones that he loves, and that's an amazing thing that God would choose us, and that he loves us, and that he would use us. So I think that about covers it. Let's give it up for Mitch.
Let's give it up for Drew. Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to say it's super good to be here with you guys. First I'll start off. I'm Mitchell Bowser. I'm the Midwest Regional Director currently, and in transition this season with Ben. So I just wanted to come up and introduce Ben personally. So I've been doing the Midwest Regional thing for 3 seasons now, and I was fairly new when I started, and this is just home for me now. Me and my wife, Mandy with the baby in the back there, just love spending time with you guys. This is home, and just sitting with many of you guys last night, just talking, it's I haven't seen you in a year, and nothing's changed. It's we just pick up right where we left off. I just love it. I just wanted to come up here, introduce Ben. Ben's going to be taking over this season, so we'll be doing it together. Midwest crew already knows this, but we wanted to show face and tell you guys what's going on. I'm super stoked. Ben's way better at this type of thing than me. He's more organized and a go-getter, so I'm happy to see him step up into the role, and I just want to thank you guys for accepting me into the family, and it's been fun. I'll still be around. I'm not like going away, but yeah.
Cool, thanks Mitch.
Yeah.
Everyone give Mitch a round of applause. You can stay or you can sit down.
Hang out for a second.
Cool, well I'm Ben, like Mitch said, and I'm taking over for the Midwest. Our next speaker, surprisingly we have not heard from yet, and I'm sure we all missed the, hey everybody, how's it going? And so Randy, I think it's time for you to come on down. Is that all right? That was my best impression of a Randy, my bad. Anyways, Randy's, am I saying what you're talking about? Or surprise? I don't know. Anyways, this is Randy. Randy's gonna be talking about SFC mission and vision.
Mission. Do I sound like that? No. Ian says no. Hey everybody, how's it going? Then, oh man. Ian says no. Ian says I don't sound like that. I don't know. You guys know how you like watch yourself in a video and you're like, man, I look like a weirdo. That's why I don't like to listen to the SFC podcast. Do you all know we have a podcast? You can hear all of these talks in about 3 weeks' time or whenever Nick gets around to it on the SFC podcast. And if you're antsy for them, just email Nick. It's nick@sfcusa.org. Do you guys want his phone number too? You can text him. Okay, yeah, I'm talking about what is an SFC. So I want you all to look at your neighbor and say, what are you doing here? And that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about why is this a thing? Like, what are we even here for? And we'll probably talk about some things like what we want from you and what kind of the heart of SFC is. But before we get into it, my name is Randy. I'm the USA National Director. I also do a couple other things with SFC. There's like 4 of us in the office, and so we all do things we don't want to do, like buy the insurance or build website forms and things like Nick does that one. I don't do that one. If you have a problem with the website, also email Nick. Nick@sfcusa.org. He'd be so glad to hear from you. Suggestions for the website, complaints, just send them all his way. So the thing is, not all of us here were like, hey, I am part of this like organization, this group. Maybe this is your first time interacting with this conference, with this community. But there's there are several things that we all have in common. And that's kind of the last couple of years I noticed the theme of this conference is, listen, do you love snow? Do you love Jesus? Well, we want this community to be a resource for you. And so whether you call what you do, hey, I'm an SFC chapter or not, we want this community to be a resource for you. I like to think of it like a trade association sort of thing, to be like, hey, listen, if you love Jesus, you love snow, we are your people. And so I think I'd like to start, I'm like a really practical type person, and it's really important to me to start with kind of the end in mind. So what exactly are we trying to achieve in coming together? And the big idea is this. Together, well, we've done that. You're all here. Thank you. Thank you very much. But for next year, I want you to keep it in mind as we are going about hey, is there somebody who needs to know about this? Is there somebody who would be encouraged by the same types of conversations I'm having over breakfast with other people who just seem to get it? Especially if you're not from a resort community. Sometimes your church community, sometimes your aunt, they're always like, so you hand out gospel tracts on the chairlift? I think that's nice. And we're like, you could do that, but I don't know. It's just like, so we definitely want this to be a place where you come together and people understand you and validate this calling. What's really special about this community is that there are people all over the world who have just been like laying in bed one day or in the shower where Josh Stock has his best ideas, and all of a sudden you're like, man, I think that my snowboarding or my ski touring needs to be a vessel for Christ, just like the rest of my life. And what does that look like? And so here we are, we've gathered. We want to say this calling is legitimate, and thousands of other people around the world have had this calling. And then we want to equip you. We've brought in speakers who are experts on things in the field of sharing Jesus, making disciples in the ski and snowboard community. And we work really hard all summer to write videos and make resources to help you go out and make more disciples of Jesus and to make an impact in your community. And then finally grow. We want to send out each one of you as a missionary, as a person on mission in your community, somewhere in this continent, in this globe. We have Australians and Englishmen here, and go out and spread the good news of Jesus and come back. Maybe some of those people that you share with are also passionate about snowboarding and skiing, and that's how this thing grows. And so that's what we're doing here. This is also the same mission of we're part of a global action sports network, and so we have hand motions for it. I'm going to keep you all engaged by doing the hand motions with me. So we're going to gather. Come on, gather. We're gathering. We're going to validate. So it's like the YMCA thing, like the big V over your head. V. Some of you are Christian, you're not doing it. V. We're going to validate. Equip and share. So like you're sharing a cookie or you're sharing some things. And then grow. Grow. Ian, are you snoozing on me? We're going to grow. Can you do the hand motions with me? Thank you. Thanks, pal. Okay, so the vision, what is the vision of this movement? What is the vision of, SFC is an organization, but we also, it's called Snowboarders and Skiers for Christ. Whether you like it or not, if you're a skier and you're for Christ, you're a part of this thing, and so welcome. You don't have to be a member of the club or whatever. You're a part of this movement of people, Christ's people that are skiers, and so here we are. And it's to be the light of Jesus in the snow riding culture. And so it's not to shine necessarily the light of Jesus. What we're saying is like to go take a flashlight, like you're kind of from the outside. You're not like, like you open a dark closet if there's a monster in there and you're like shining it in, before you go in. It's like you guys, you're all a part of this. You guys are, I've seen the clothes you wear and the things you post on the internet. Like it's skiing stuff. You guys are a part of this culture. Every single one of you, I think. And, yeah, and so here, there's the snowcat. I think that was I was looking for a really cool one of like when you're driving at night and all you can see is the snowcat. Like that's what I imagine, like us on the hill, especially in dark places like New England, where it's like there's just like one guy who's like the light of Jesus in the snow culture. So I like that. That image wasn't exactly what I was going for, but. And then the mission is to bridge the snow riding culture to Jesus. And so in bridge, it's an acronym for our values, but it's also a verb. It's what we're doing is we are that connecting point. And so we are members of the body of Christ. If you're a Christian, you are part of the capital C church. And so I like to think that we are like the pinky finger that likes the skiing and snowboarding. There's really important all of the other parts of the body, but we are the skiing, snowboarding part of the body, which is, I think, the pinky. Because it's really not that important, but we're like really, but you're really glad it's there. So I hope they're glad we're there. And we're bridging the snow riding culture to Jesus and partnering with the church. So we are part of the church. We're both sides. It's like here we are as the church, and we're there too, but we're also part of the snowboard culture, and so we live here, and we're bridging the people to Jesus up in there to the church. Thank you so much. And so we're a values-based organization, we're a values-based movement, and so what we don't think, no one here would be like, yo dude, I found out the sickest way to reach all the people for Jesus in Ashwaubenon, Wisconsin. Like what you do is you like hand out sausages, and they were all saying the sinner's prayer, and so that's what you need to do in California. Like they're gonna be so into it. They're gonna like that. And so we're like, no, that's silly. Like you are all experts in your area. You've lived in and through the community. You've met the people at the grocery store. You've cried with them when something really hard happened. And so you think, man, I know what would love and serve the people best in my area. And so that's why we want to enable everybody to do that through thinking through these values. And these are really just some of the values of what a disciple of Jesus looks like. And so I'm not going to discuss them at length at this point, but look through the list. It makes the acronym BRIDGE. A couple years ago, we said, man, values of an organization, we like read a book and they're like, values are so important. They like shape your culture. And then Josh looked at me and he's like, yo, dude, do you know our values? And I'm like, nah, dude, what's a value? And so we rewrote them to be super memorable, believing, relationships, identity, doing, gospel, engaging. And so we like to let those shape and form the types of things you're doing as you're thinking, what would love my community? What would serve? How can I do it through relationships? How can I help make sure that my identity is not wrapped up in the ski culture, that I don't have my identity wrapped up in sliding a piece of plastic over frozen water? What a dumb place. But Jesus, the King of the universe, who made you and knew you and formed you in your mother's womb, that's a place to have your identity and point people towards that. And then doing, involved in the community, always with the gospel in mind and engaging your community. So, yeah, we just want to empower you guys to be doing those things. And so what do we want from you is to take your identity, take who you are as a member of the body of Christ in the ski and snowboard community, bridging that gap and putting these values to work in creative ways. Like I was saying, you're the local expert, but there are creative ways that you can pour this out. And I want to give you just a couple examples of values at work. There are these ladies, these church ladies, they were outside Salt Lake City, and they were like, I think that these people, they're like older ladies, they're like, they smell kind of bad. Like, where are they doing their laundry? And so they like rented out a full laundromat one day and invited people in. But they were thinking like these shred kids, these like the younger kids bumping lifts and stuff, were not gonna stick around. They were like, oh, they'll drop off their laundry. They'll like maybe we'll like slip a note in the like Jesus loves you into their bag as they pick up the laundry. But that's not ended up happening. And these like 22-year-old shred kids ended up sitting around and just sharing life, sharing the love and the heart of these ladies for the full, how long does it take to do laundry? Like a 30-minute wash cycle and like a 45-minute dry. So that's like an hour and 15-minute total opportunity for these ladies just to love on these kids who are just trying to figure out what life is about, what's going on. And so that's just an example of some ladies who in a community who said, man, what did he plop in front of us? What's an opportunity that we're seeing? And it ended up being like a really fruitful ministry opportunity for them. And so just a couple other thoughts. Don't be afraid to push the limits. We're not, one thing that we can do if you are a part of SFC is buy insurance and things like that. And so, there's like, very often when you go into your community, just like what happened, we were outside and we were about to fly the drone and they're like, dude, you do have like, where's your certification? You can't fly a drone around here. You got to call do you know Donald Trump? Can you call him, text him and see if it's okay? And we're like, oh no, we can't do that. But one thing we like to do is to be able to tear down some of these roadblocks for you. And so some of the resources are things like insurance, where your church is like, yo, do you have $1 million of insurance coverage? I'm like, do you have $1 million of anything? Like, no. But yes, we do have $1 million of insurance coverage. And so if it's easy for you, and we do it with our partners, we've got, there's like a camp coming up. Sam Morse is a professional ski racer, buddies with Marcus. His mom and dad are going to be here tonight. And they're going to do a ski race camp. And Mount Hood is like, yo, do you guys got like $3 million of insurance? And it's like,
I hope you have more than one.
yeah, I'm saying one is our base, but it's easy. You send them a couple more dollars. We like send them cash in like an envelope, all crumpled up. We send them a couple more dollars, and then it's $3 million. But it's to enable stuff like that, because to tear down roadblocks for the type of things. And so don't be afraid to push the limits. Don't be able to dream a little bit big and don't think, oh, I couldn't do that because I don't have the money or the insurance or the whatever. If God lays an idea on your heart, send it and don't be intimidated. So that's what I have for you. We're here as a resource to you. We love you guys. We're stoked that you're here, whether you call what you do SFC or not. We're thrilled. Thanks for being here, and we're stoked to spend this weekend with you. Thanks, Ben.